Welcome to part one of the topic 5 video sequence. As we mentioned in the introduction, this part is going to show how to specify a JSON growdiff file. The basic idea here is we're going to take a simple example. We're going to say, what if employment income, meaning wages and salaries, slow down by 1 percentage point beginning in 2020 and all subsequent years in comparison to the default growth assumptions that are built into the model. So to specify such a file, we need to figure out what the growth factor is for employment income. In fact, we need to know something about what the model, how the model knows what employment income is. So let's switch over to the Anaconda prompt. This is where we left things at the end of the introduction. And what we're going to do is, first of all, try to figure out what word the model uses to talk about employment income. So we're gonna search through the for employment, shall we say, through the language words. That's our dictionary. This includes all the words that the model understands. So if we're going to talk to the model, we need to know what kind of vocabulary it has. And here it is. Employment income, E-M-P-I-N-C. Okay, that's the income from employment. Okay, so what about the growth factors? What are the growth factors? Well, let's continue to look in the words, and let's say growth. See whether that gets us something. Well, it turns out there's a whole bunch of growth differences, and if we scan down here, we see one that looks promising, this one, but it doesn't say E-M-P-I-N-C. It doesn't say that this is the growth factor that affects employment income. It just says earnings. So what I'm going to show you now is a way to look at the way the model works. Here we are at the model's homepage. We've been there quite a few times. This time we're going to look at the source code, what happens inside the model. This is sort of an advanced feature, but we're towards the end of the training, so we can learn something new. We're going to click on Files. All the files in the tax, for the tax model are here. And if we scroll down, we see growth factors JSON. That's what in the slide it said we should look at. So if we scroll down here, we see that each growth factor, in this case wages, let's focus on this part, has an entry. And it has, in particular, it has an apply to. And in the square brackets is a list of one or more variables that the growth factor, wages in this case, applies to employment income. So this confirms that the wages growth factor is the one we want to adjust and say is growing less fast. Okay, so I'm going to put away our browser, come back. So this is what we just did. We read the source code, the growth factors JSON. Okay, now we're going to go back to the Anaconda prompt, and we're going to clear the screen, and we're going to look at the wages under current law. In other words, at the end of the introduction, this is similar to the trick we've done before. We know that there's a whole bunch of these parameter output files. We want to see what wages is in each one of them. So we're going to do this. And so this shows from at the top, 2018, at the bottom line, 2025. Here is the growth factor for wages, which is the one that's going to affect employment income. So these are factors, not percentages. So here at the end where it says 1.02, that means that wages, it's going to grow employment income by 2% in that year. So these values are from the Ministry of Finance's current baseline projection. That's why they're, and you notice that the baseline projection does have quite a slowdown, just about 1% in 2020. That's their attempt to characterize the effect of COVID. But then they have a pretty rapid turnaround in 2021. And so nobody knows what the future holds. So what we're going through here is to see how we can do simple what-if assumptions. What if there's a different way the economy plays out because of this whole pandemic? So what we're going to do is change the wages growth factor in a JSON file beginning in 2020 to be 1 percentage point less than these numbers here. Okay? So I'm going to start my editor here. We're in topic 5. So here are all the files. So I'm going to call this JSON file T5 for topic 5 video gd.json. Okay? So what I'm going to do, it starts out with the curly braces. And we know that what we're trying to change here is wages. We've confirmed that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say that wages are going to be different than the default growth factors built into the model beginning in 2020. And the growth factor is going to be 0.01, oops, forgot the negative sign, less than what's in the default projections. Okay, so let's save that. Go back to the Anaconda prompt and let's do a model run with this growdiff business. So we're going to do the same one we did before with current. We're going to do this with current law. We're going to start in 2018, run out to 2025. So we're going to keep using current law. We want to make it go fast, so we're suppressing the dump output right. And we're doing num years 8. And here's the new feature. We're going to use the growdiff option. And we're going to tell it the name of the JSON file that we just saved, which, if I remember correctly, was t5v_gd.json. Okay, the tab key completed there, so the operating system knows that that is a file name. So this should work. So this is exactly what we ran before, but it's using the growdiff. So let's see whether, first of all, it runs, and second of all, how can we tell that things are looking good. So we can do the grep again. For just wages, there's a lot of stuff here. This is the same trick we've been using over and over again. We want to do the parameters. So this is what we did before. But look up here. Let's look at the output that the model wrote. The input data are extrapolated to 2025 using the modified growth factors, see? As opposed to the default growth factors. This is the key. This is because we used the growdiff option. Okay, so because we're not using the default things, the parameters file has an extra element here. It echoes back to us the name of the growdiff file that we use. So I'm going to copy and paste that and use that, except I'm going to do it for all the years, not just 2025. So I'll put the wildcard in there. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Up here is using our default growth assumptions. And as we said, in the default, the Ministry of Finance projections do have a noticeable slowdown in the rate of growth, but it's still positive. It's almost 1%. So here in the alternative, it's 1 percentage point less than that, which takes it actually to just barely under 1. So there's a teeny reduction in employment income. If we'd used minus 2%, we would have had it less. And so, as you can see, in each year now, because this growdiff, the minus 1% in the growdiff, it's sticky, just like the reform provisions. It means it's minus 0.01 in 2020 and every year after that. So that's why our 2% here have changed into 1% here. So it seems as if we've constructed the growdiff file in a way that correctly translates our intentions to the model, and it is using the alternative growth factors that we want it to simulate. So in the next video, we'll show how to see what the aggregate tax revenue effects of this alternative growth assumption is. So that's it.